Welcome to Brunchin with Bryan, the show where I cook, I drink, and you reevaluate how you got here. Today's episode was once again brought to you by Bourbon and Ginger. It is once again Jim Beam and Ginger Ale because I'm filming this on the exact same day as the last episode. I didn't feel like making two different kinds of drinks, so deal with it. It was a lot of work for very little reward. So on today's episode of Brunchin with Bryan, we're gonna make one of my favorite dishes to order along with sushi, tempura. Now I'll put the link to my sushi video down below. Make sure to watch it or else I'm gonna in your pillowcase. So tempura is one of my favorite dishes to order, but I feel like $10 for 2 pieces of shrimp and like 6 veggies is way too much. And it turns out I was right. You can actually make as much tempura as you want to get you full at home for probably about half the cost. Now tempura is a simple, thick batter that you use to coat meats and veggies, fry up in some oil, and enjoy. So the first thing we want to do for tempura is heat up our oil. Now I'm using an electric wok, but you can use anything that can hold a few inches of oil. I'm going to use canola oil today, and we want to get that heated up to about 375. You want to heat up your batter. So you want to heat up your oil first before you make your tempura batter. The reason why is because the batter should be done cold. Tempura batter is super easy to make. It's done with just a few ingredients that you definitely have laying around at home. So just remember, 1, 1, and 1. We need 1 cup of flour, 1 egg, and 1 cup of ice water. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take 1 cup of flour and put it through a sifter. Now, if you don't have a sifter at home, you can just use a fork. We want this to be kind of fine and with no lumps in it. Now we then want to take some flour and we want to put some into a bowl. Now this is going to be used to coat whatever we're going to be putting into our batter, so that the batter has something to stick to. So we can't use the sink because this place is bullshit. So the next thing we want to do is we want to put 1 cup of water into a glass of ice. So after we've got our cup of ice water, what we want to do is we want to take an egg and crack it into a bowl. I just happen to have an egg in my pocket. All right, so let's crack that into this bowl. Boop. All right, and so we just want to whisk this until it's just barely mixed up. We don't need it too beaten. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to take 1 cup from our ice water, no ice inside of it, just the water, and put that into our bowl with the beaten egg. So now we want to mix up that water and egg mixture. And now we're going to dump that into the flour. Now you can also add in stuff like salt or cayenne pepper or any number of things into the flour to add a little bit extra flavor to it. But today we're just going basic. What I've read all over the internet is that it's best to use chopsticks to mix up this batter because you want it to be still fairly chunky, but also you don't want any kind of air getting in there. So don't whisk. And also, you know, believe everything that the internet tells you. So now I just take the chopsticks, put them together, and just kind of mix up that water and flour and egg. We want to make sure we're getting everything off the sides, mixing it up, and it's going to end up being a fairly thick batter. So now that our batter's made, we're gonna set that off to the side real quick while we chop up some of our stuff to make for tempura. Green beans. So today we're going to be doing shrimp and green bean tempura. I was able to find raw shrimp at a Kroger grocery store for about $6.99 for probably about, 25 large shrimp. So that was perfect. We're gonna use a couple of these. And I got a pound of some fresh green beans. So I've gone ahead and pulled out 10 green beans, and we're probably gonna have about 10 shrimp. Now, tempura is very filling, and we're gonna be making sushi tonight too, so this is probably more than enough for the both of us. The first thing I wanna do with my green beans is cut off the ends. Just the very tips. And discard those. And then I just put the green beans inside of a bowl. Set it off to the side. what? I can use that dirty bowl. The dirty, dirty bowl. All right, so now that we've got our green beans cut up, I've got 10 pieces of shrimp sitting out over here. Now, if you've ever had shrimp tempura before, you've noticed that the shrimp is actually straight instead of curled up like shrimp normally is. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get off most of the shell. We want to leave just the end of the tail on. So we're going to go ahead and remove the shell. I got a little bowl over here for my shell bits. So once your shrimp is peeled, then you just have a little bit left on the tail. What you want to do is you want to lay it on its back side. And then what we want to do is we want to make a few little slits on the shrimp's belly, maybe about 3. And then we want to flip it over, lay it onto its stomach. And we want to hold onto the sides and push down from the top. You'll hear it pop. And once it pops, you end up with a straight shrimp. You won't have to worry about these cuts being visible because once you dunk it in that batter, all anyone's going to see is just the covered, battered goodness and a little shrimp tail hanging out of the top. Doon 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 doon. So now that all of our shrimp have been cut and straightened out and our green beans are set over to the side, we're gonna do the shrimp first so that way it doesn't get overly stinky in here. Nice. We want to take our shrimp, we want to roll it around inside of our flour, then we want to dunk it into our tempura batter and then drop right into our oil. Now I usually do probably in this size of a wok about 4 pieces at a time. I don't want to overcrowd our oil because I also don't want to drop the temperature too much, and it's kind of better when these don't really stick together. The first time I tried it, the very first 2 that I made stuck together and looked like a big curly mustache. So we dredge in the flour. Now, the nice part about this is you can just hold on to the shrimp tail, coat it, and drop in to the oil. And the way you'll know when these are done is when the oil stops popping and bubbling, or when it starts to really slow down and the volume level changes on it. So be careful, these might pop a little bit because you are putting in batter that's still pretty liquidy, and shrimp do have a little bit of water still left in them, so sometimes they do like to pop on you, but so far so good. So once these are done cooking, what you want to do is take them, strain them out with either a slotted spoon or anything you can use that's like a mesh to get these out of the oil. Put them either onto a cooling rack, or you can put them on a plate that's covered in paper towels, which is what I'm going to be doing today. And then after these are done, I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing to the green beans. We're going to put them through the flour, put them into the batter, drop them in a couple at a time, pull those out, let them sit on a paper towel covered plate, and we will be set. All right, this is our plate of tempura. So sans a few pieces that I might have snacked on. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make our tempura dipping sauce. Spoons! So in order to make our tempura dipping sauce, we're gonna need 4 ingredients. We're going to need dashi, which I did homemade. It's not quite exactly dashi. Dashi is just a broth, a Japanese broth. The one that I made, normally they would use dried out sardines or anchovies. I just grabbed a can of sardines from the store, threw that into 4 cups of water with a little bit of salt, threw in some shiitake mushrooms and a little bit of seaweed, and then let that sit overnight. The next day, I took it, put it into a pot, brought it up to a boil, let it simmer for about 10 minutes or so, and then strained it out, and now I have dashi. It's essentially the same broth that's used in miso soup. Another ingredient we're going to need is mirin, which is a cooking rice wine. We're going to need soy sauce, and we're going to need sugar. First, what we want to do is we want to place 3/4 of a cup of our dashi into a pot. It'll be the first time I'm making this, so I'm very intrigued as to how this is going to turn out. Then we're going to need to use 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. And then we're going to need 2 tablespoons of mirin. And then lastly, we're going to need 1 teaspoon of sugar. Now we just want to bring the temperature up so that way the sugar will dissolve. And once this is all nice and dissolved, we're ready. So now that our sauce is done, I put it into a little Tupperware container. I've just taken a little spoonful of it. This is my first time making this. It came out very nice, very salty, sweet, umami. It has a lot of flavor to it, but also still staying very simple. I'm going to have Stephanie come over here and step on into frame there, madame.
Hi. All right.
Grab a green bean or shrimp.
Got a green bean.
Now dip that.
When I dip, you dip, we dip. Okay.
All right.
Moment of truth. Oh, it's awful. I love how those two go together.
I'm not usually a big sauce person. I usually like eating my stuff plain. This I'm excited to try here in a second. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I'm not usually a sauce guy, but that's really good. So the nice part about tempura is, sure, while it might be fried and not necessarily the best thing for you, it's fairly light. I mean, it's filling, but it doesn't make you feel as though you need a nap immediately right after you eat it. You can tempura anything you really want to. We have onions, we have mushrooms, we've got green beans, asparagus. Sweet potatoes are another very good one to do. We've got carrots, broccoli, and cauliflower florets. You can do any of those things. You can do shrimp, you can do chicken, whatever your heart desires. So this is it for another episode of Brunchin with Bryan. Click that like button, and if you're new here, click subscribe. If you had as much fun watching this as I did making this, please go ahead and share the shit out of this. Be sure to watch my sushi video, which I'll put in the description, and let me know in the comments down below what you decide to tempura. You know, if it's shrimp, if it's green beans, if it's a baby, who knows? Bye! It was a lot of work for very little reward.